Hi, everyone, and welcome to Marketing Mode. Today, we are talking about the mounting pressure that marketers are experiencing to improve their marketing performance alongside their decreasing budgets. And this is all according to research. We have it for you now. Welcome. I'm Jenna.
I'm Todd.
And this is another episode of Marketing Mode where we talk about research that we just created for you here. This one's based on some research we fielded this month. It's called Digital Marketing Strategy Trends 2023. And we surveyed 358 marketers. We're talking about budgets and pressure and what marketers can do to kind of alleviate some pressure with these decreasing budgets, right?
That's right. And I don't think we plan to have all black on for this conversation, but we do.
I was just gonna say the same thing. We're twins today. When we first popped on, I was like, well, we should probably mention the fact that we're both wearing black if people are watching the video.
So maybe a little doom and gloom, but also we do have a positive component to this conversation.
Right. I guess it is appropriate for these
That's
this
right.
topic.
Well, this research, we just like Jenna said, we just did it a couple weeks ago, so it's fresh and very very topical. But I think we all can feel this pressure of like I just talked to one of our really great clients, did a lot of research with last year, and they had to cut out most of their budget that they did for research and a lot of other things. And so I could just hear on her voice, the pressure mounting from I have less budget, I have big goals I still need to hit. So this research really aligned with I think what I'm seeing in the market right now.
Yeah, totally. And we asked this question about significant challenges of meeting goals, and limited budget and resources was top the list by a landslide. 53% of marketers listed that as a top challenge, which is incredible. I mean, considering we should have looked back at last year, but I bet it wasn't as limiting to them.
It definitely wasn't number one. And
No.
Like I said, the one neat thing is that, we're doing research every month. So we do a pretty good job of like just seeing the trends of what's going on. And, you can definitely see that, last year at this time, the feeling was not the same
Totally.
in the data results. And
then, I want to say that, creating a strategy, the strategic elements of a digital marketing strategy, like the overall creating the overall strategy and getting that in place. I think that's a huge challenge for marketers most of the time. And like budget is, kind of looming there, but it's never at the top like this.
Yeah, and you really have to adapt. I mean, it's just like a football coach who has a great, offensive plan, and then the other, then it gets stoned the first two series, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we gotta adjust. We have to make some adjustments here. And I think this is, obviously this research was specifically looking at, digital marketing strategy, but you can kind of see that marketers are already trying to figure out like how do I adapt, and that's how we survive, right? We survive by adapting. Marketing's a hard, it's a hard gig. I wonder sometimes, like I don't necessarily encourage my kids to go into marketing if they want to, but it's like it is a hard gig because it tends to be the first thing that gets cut, and those cuts do not result in lower expectations.
And I know it's difficult across all company sizes, but just from my experience working for small businesses, as a marketer, you're dealing with limited budget and resources right off the bat, almost all the time. And, you're wearing a number of hats. A lot of stuff kind of gets thrown on marketing's plate that maybe shouldn't. And so I think that this is kind of reflective of just that overall feeling of like, not having and trying to do a lot with not a lot.
Yeah, and we can, as marketers, we can, um, we don't have a whole lot of time to feel sad for ourselves. We have to turn around and, figure out what's the next step. What is the
Mhm.
strategy moving forward? And one of the data points we saw here in this report was that the number one focus was going to be content creation. And so I thought that was really interesting. I know, here, I mean, we're all about creating original research and content around that. And so it really made me think about, maybe some practical steps that marketers could use, on moving forward now with kind of what we do around, taking content. And I know for us, we really encourage people like take your original research, break it out into, various blog posts, social media, posts, uh, emails, webinars, videos, uh,
Yeah.
all these different things.
And maybe beyond the like slicing and dicing of one piece of content that you're putting, a decent amount of budget into, but think more about longevity and how far down the line, down through the year it can get you. We obviously love this stat because we create content, but not all content is created equal, right? Like some you're going to put a ton of budget into and it's going to get a big punch right at the beginning and then you're not going to see anything from it. Whereas like for instance, we see a lot of good traction with PR that we get, and that kind of seems to snowball, right? You see one media outlet pick up something and then you kind of get more coverage and more coverage and more coverage, and that can last a long time, and the way we can kind of create these, like you said, little pieces of content, supplemental content out of a big piece. So maybe look at, you know, uh, evaluate what you're putting your budget towards, what kind of content you're putting your budget towards, and how long you can use it, how many different ways you can use it, especially if you're working with, limited budgets.
Yeah, I literally was on a call with one of our clients. We published something with them, a research study about a month and a half ago, and we're on a call preparing for a webinar we're going next week. And I mentioned, that I thought that we were going to be getting some press coverage soon. And literally, I got off the call, looked at my email, and there was two media companies that published articles about their research. So a
Oh
month and a
yeah,
half.
I saw those pop up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. That might not happen again as far as like the perfect timing, but you know, we're like working on that strategy of like trying to make sure that we extend the media coverage as long as possible. So going back and re-engaging with some of the media, doing various tactics and techniques to make sure that we don't just move on to the next thing. Eventually we will. Like eventually, we're going to have to create another study to get some fresh data out there. But that was just like one pretty cool example of kind of I think
And
how
timely.
you can and how you can take that
Made
that
you look like a
limited.
hero.
Yes, if only
We
for
love that.
1 hour a month.
Yeah.
I'll take what I can get,
Um,
Jenna.
your mention of the webinar actually made me think of just one more interesting point that I saw in this research, which was that people are adding or increasing online events and shows into their marketing mix this year. That was the number one thing that they're adding into their programs. And, when I think about that more globally, like as it pertains to this topic of, you know, limited budgets, maybe it's because they're like relatively cheap to produce. I mean, time, it takes a lot of time usually, but there's not a ton of cost associated with getting a podcast up and running or, doing a webinar. Um, so, maybe that's a great way to not only utilize a big content piece, but maybe start to focus on these like smaller things that you can be doing that you can do consistently, um, for minimal invested.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about being resilient, right? And you take what's given to you. I think you have to manage expectations up. So, when budgets are
Mm-hmm.
removed from you and you have this pressure, I mean, I think you have to be very realistic with your executive team of what that means, not in a, woe is me type of thing, but just that aspect of, trying to provide a consistent um, communication with them on, the impact of, so for example, if you can't do any more, like in our case of our partner, if they can't do any more new original research, there are some things they can do to make the current one last, but I think they have to be very, clear with their, executive team of that's not going to last forever. And so I think one of the things I've experienced in companies is whenever budgets get cut, especially in a B2B marketing world where you have a long sales cycle, what happens is, budgets get cut, and for the first couple months, you don't really see a downfall in revenue because your pipeline's already filled. And so it's kind of like a car, you're going 60 miles an hour down the road,
Mm.
you turn off the engine, it keeps moving for quite a while, but eventually it's going to stop. And so I think there's this misconception by the executive team of I cut budgets the first 2-3 months, hey, revenue's still pretty good. And
Right.
they have this false perception. You have to keep reminding them of, that's not going to last forever. We need to continue to fill that pipeline, get those sales ready leads, work with the sales team. And, so I think just that's a really important component of just being very, in a very positive way, let that executive team know what's going on.
Transparency. And like you said, managing expectations. Yeah. And actually maybe that's kind of why we see that a lot of marketers feel that their pressure is increasing.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just kind of the walls closing in a little bit as far as budget is concerned, and so it gives that feeling of increased pressure, like mounting pressure in the future to how are we going to continue, you know, how are we going to continue to bring in the same revenue that we're bringing in with all this limitation.
Right, right. I mean, there's just that aspect of being positive but realistic, right?
Hmm.
Positive, and what I mean by that, positive in, we're not just giving up. We're, working with the executive team with the budget we have. We're being also realistic about it, right? And not making false claims about what we can do. We're not, marketers. We're not miracle workers.
Right, right, totally. And I think so many people can relate to that.
Yes, yes. And these times will change, right? Ups and downs. Uh,
Hmm.
Industries, like we're seeing, obviously right now that the tech world is getting beat up quite a bit. But then other industries are doing better. So,
Hmm.
you know, we try to pivot as much as possible and keep that's why we love the research, because I think the research allows marketers to see like, what tactics are working today, not a year ago.
Hmm.
What things are going on in industry. It can be very helpful to stay current on those things.
Yeah, we have a little bit of an advantage there with with that
We do.
that
I mean,
direct access to audiences.
we do. I mean, the one thing, and hopefully we'll get some. Feel free to provide comments. Uh, However you're listening to this, provide us comments back, because uh, there's a lot of things we do really well in the research. A lot of things we research, we're not necessarily experts in the tactics behind it, right? So we love to get experts in who can provide the next step information.
Mm.
So a lot of these things that we can research and we can find out what's going on, but it's really helpful to have you as the expert come in and kind of provide that connective tissue between what the research says and what the marketer can do.
Yes, definitely open for guests.
That's right.
Actually, that being said, just to let you know, please go over to our website. There's a huge database of research there for you to look through. Everything's free. And if this, this topic isn't exactly, maybe you're not focused on strategy, maybe you're more into personalization, or you name it, you can find it there as far as digital topics is concerned. So we welcome you to our website too.
That's great. I think that's all I have for right now. Maybe I need to go change into a more brighter color shirt.
I'm gonna go put some color on. This is bumming me out. Well, thanks, Todd. This was great.
Oh,
And we hope you enjoyed it.
you're welcome. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.